We're about to experience a massive shift in the player base inside of Diablo Immortal because one of the biggest, strongest, and most spendy players in Diablo Immortal is no longer playing and has completely quit the game on all of his accounts. Who am I talking about? We're talking about Baratheon, someone that I had on the channel back in December where we were talking about account things, terms of service related things, and how he essentially ran his accounts and the reasoning behind why he did everything he did. Now, funny thing about that video is it was actually removed by YouTube and my channel received some punishment for talking about a topic that was buying and selling terms of service related items. So that's not something that I'm able to talk about here on the channel because the channel definitely did take a hit from this that happened. It's all cleaned up now, but that discussion I had to actually post over on X because it wasn't able to be on YouTube. But Baratheon is no longer going to be playing Diablo Immortal on his main account, which has some massive value that I'm going to be telling you what the value of that account actually was, or on any of the other accounts that he had paid for, that he had owned, and that he was utilizing inside of the game. Now, with all of these accounts no longer being inside of Diablo Immortal, that's going to be a drastic shift into the power of the servers that he was part of, which actually was my server, Treasure Goblin server. He was on my server. He was actually in my clan as well, but no longer. It is no longer a thing. His accounts are gone. So what we're going to be talking about today is why is this such a change and going to make such a shift, and it's gonna shake up Diablo Immortal just because of how strong a player he was, and why did he make these choices, and how much was his account actually valued at. Before I bring in my special guest, I have to pull in a sponsor for today's video. That sponsor is Raid Shadow Legends, so thank you guys so much for sitting through it. Wow, there is an amazing opportunity right now inside of Raid Shadow Legends that I have never seen ever since I've started playing the game over 2 years ago. And that is our boy right here, Grand Oak, available to all new players when you download the game with my QR code or my link in the description. Plus there's more rewards than that. So after you download the game utilizing my QR code or my link, you're gonna put in code WRATH inside of the game. This is gonna get you Grand Oak, and it's gonna change your initial experience inside of Raid, being able to utilize him from day one. Now, I need to thank Raid Shadow Legends for this opportunity and for sponsoring today's video. And I have to say, I'm a little bit jealous here because I don't even have this guy on my own account. I want him desperately. And there's a lot of other really cool ones that are in that faction as well. One of my favorite being Nell Blackteeth, which is a champion that I have, and one that we just got a 6-star soul on as well. If you want to keep up with my journey inside of Raid, see what I'm doing on a daily basis on my account, come check out my Echo Raid channel where I put videos out every day. And we have a blast playing this game. Now, there's even more for you guys because when you downloaded the game with my link in the description or that QR code, you get 4 other champions in addition to Grand Oak, one of which is another legendary, Elenaril, who is going to be another champion that on day one, initially from starting the game, you could utilize her and Grand Oak together and have complete domination of all areas of the game just as you start. And in addition to these 2 legendaries, you're also going to unlock 3 epic champions, all of which are going to be valuable to you, getting you towards mid game, and some of which will even be valuable towards the end game, ones that I still use today. So what is it? Well, it's a great time to play Raid Shadow Legends, of course. Join me inside of the game, use the link in the description, the QR code, play alongside of me, and start out with an insane champion from day one. Actually, 2 insane champions from day one. Also, come check me out over on Echo Raid. Hope to see you guys there. I'll be linking the channel down below, and thanks to Raid for sponsoring the video. Today we have Thunder Soap. Many of you may know him from inside of Diablo Immortal. Solid player. He's become a good friend of mine over the past few months, and he's going to be talking to us about this whole Baratheon leaving the game situation. Thunder, thanks for coming through, man. I appreciate your time tonight.
Absolutely. Happy to be here, and been a fan of the channel for a while, and my community loves it, so happy to actually contribute.
Thanks a lot, dude. I'm going to ask you some personal stuff at the end, like your server and all that, but people want to get into the juice. And the biggest amount of juice we're going to give is what are the value of these accounts, which we're going to get to at the end. But let's start out with this question. Baratheon, one of the biggest names in Diablo Immortal. He's a huge account. Can you actually get into like the resonance and all that of his account? Like how strong was his main account? And I know it was basically all maxed out, right?
For the most part, yes, is the answer I would have to give to that. I would say, at least in terms of the East Coast region, where I mainly frequent, and that's where this account is located,
Mm-hmm.
um, he by far has the biggest account I'm aware of. Now, big is relative because Blizzard has in-game power limits, so you can't go above 13,024 resonance, as an
Mm,
example. You can still have completed gems in your bag, but they won't count. And
mm.
if you count secondaries, you really can't go more than 8 R10 of any given type of gem. For the
Yeah.
most part, Baratheon has the max resonance, the max secondary gems, and some of the nicest pets that people dream about for all of our pet crafting friends that hope when that roll runs,
Yeah.
it comes out nice. And you could even take it one step further and talk about the new wing system that came out. Uh, he has the max beautiful wings flying around on the servers.
Wow.
Um, not many
Wow.
people have gone and done that, but he is definitely one of the ones.
That's pretty crazy, man. So he basically has everyone's dream account. And it's crazy to me to think. I mean, and obviously there's different types of players. You have your free to play, your light spenders, your mid spenders, your whales, and your krakens. He's clearly a kraken, and people that are able to spend that kind of money that we're going to talk about in a little bit, they have that extra money to spend. So again, please don't be someone that's spending your meal money on your Diablo Immortal account. All right, do you think that Baratheon leaving? One of the strongest accounts in the game is no longer playing, or any of his alts. Do you think this is like, are the tides shifting here? Are we going to start seeing a lot of these bigger whale players just saying, for whatever reason, I'm done. Diablo Immortal, I've been playing it since launch, and I don't want to play it anymore. Do you think that's the shifting tide, or is this just something for Baratheon and his own personal decision for his own personal reasons? What are your thoughts there?
Um, I'm going to say it's a little bit of yes, a little bit of no,
Okay.
right? A lot of people come to play mobile games with very different reasons. And when they start, when they leave, all that factors into it. In terms of the grand scheme, there's a lot of different aspects of the game you can care about.
Hmm.
If we take it from kind of a PvE lens, well, you may not have to compete with him on your class's challenge lift leaderboard anymore.
Uh-huh.
Or if you wanted to try and be the first ranked in terms of gauntlets or things like that. We don't have a large amount of PvE competition to note right now in Diablo Immortal, but that does free up some space for those server rankings if that's what you're going for. If we
Hmm.
take it up to a PvP level, first I'll start on the clan side. This is the traditional side everyone's familiar with your shadows and your immortals and the endless back and forth cycle. It's definitely going to be a major power balance shift for that particular server.
Hmm.
Um, in terms of Baratheon's alliance, he was by far the most dominant on that cluster. And this may give others more room to grow or compete. Alternatively, it could make people feel like they've lost a mentor
Mm.
figure for that cluster. So it could go either way depending on how people feel about it. I can say from the BGer standpoint, Baratheon was a very, very avid PvPer in tons and tons of BG matches, and his name will absolutely be missed. Lots of people know him. He's been around in the community for a long time.
Yeah.
I think most substantially power-wise, though, if you look at the larger metagame of these Kraken accounts, as you're referring to them,
Hmm.
the real focus is starting to become Bout of Realms. And I think this is really where all the large whales are getting their super core competition right now. Most
Yeah.
of the servers, one side has won fairly heavy-handedly and maintains that power cap. So all the real competition moves up to this cross-server Bout of Realms. And a little bit in the PvP side, now that we're getting some cross-server. Hopefully the lag issues are resolved, but we'll see how that goes.
Okay.
In terms of Battle of Realms, I do think Baratheon's team has pretty consistently come in for that second place slot against the Globetrotters team. And then
Mhm.
you also have the Dark Lilies team, which is usually pretty high up there. And this last bout, my team actually took third. So I do think it is going to change the power balance of the dynamic. And what we get out of this next bout could be quite interesting.
I like how you snuck that in there, man. How your team took third. You just had to sneak that in there. I love it. Um,
A little bit of props. My guys worked hard.
yeah,
There was a ton of PvP practice, lots of extra calls, lots of strategizing. You know, I just want to give them the props for the work they put
I
in.
know. I'm just joking. I love that, man. That's great. By the way, everyone, Thunder Soap is just an avid person inside of Diablo Immortal. That's huge inside of the communities. That's why he's so knowledgeable about Baratheon and his whole situation. He's friendly with Baratheon, and just had context that I didn't have, so I wanted to bring him in. And you actually touched on quite a few things that I wanted to talk about in that one question. So, like, what does it mean for the clan? And the clan was actually my clan. The Ariat Summit, Baratheon was one of my clanmates. And the clan, without that account, without Baratheon, is definitely going to suffer. Our strongest guy, one of the strongest in the game, is gone, right? So clearly that's gonna be something difficult to deal with. But you took up some great points about the leaderboards. The leaderboards are going to open up a little bit and give opportunities for others, and that's good for people that are trying to push leaderboards. So I didn't even think of it from that context. But cool that, but that's going to be a positive thing, I guess, from it. I guess that's the way to put it. But at the end of the day, you didn't answer. Do you think that this is something that it's going to start a trend? Is this going to be like the next everyone's exiting the game? Baratheon left. Like, is there going to be fear because Baratheon left? Oh my God, the game is now going to die because the biggest player or one of the biggest players has left. What are your thoughts?
I think anytime kind of a notable community figure leaves a game,
Mm-hmm.
you see this doom and gloom kind of talk that follows, like, oh, the game's dying, this or that.
Yeah.
It You see it every time this happens. So this is not just Diablo Immortal specific. Every game has this phenomenon. And if you're a player who comes in with the goal of, I'm going to play this for many years,
Mm-hmm.
the power balance and the shifts and all of that aren't your main goal, right? If you're only there because you want to compete back and forth with Baratheon,
Mm-hmm.
well, him being gone is going to have a much bigger emotional significance to you than a player who's like, this is my jam. I grind Diablo Immortal. I love it. I'm going to keep doing it. So I do think some of the PvP community that were kind of in Baratheon sphere may feel like something is missing, and that might help them make a decision on leaving. However, for those that do stay, you'll notice that anytime someone leaves, it makes a bit of a power vacuum, as people like to call it,
Mm-hmm.
and more people tend to rise to the occasion to fill that gap. If you see a bunch of clans leave server frustrated, you'll notice the remaining clans get a shot at competition, and they actually experience a lot of growth. And they tend to turn into much more serious clans given a period of time in that growth window. You can almost imagine it like chopping down a large canopied tree in a forest. Suddenly, all the plants underneath it get the light.
I
They're going to
like
start.
I like how you're breaking this down, man. Nice connections that you're getting right there. But it makes a lot of sense, and I like that. But so Baratheon's gone, but like we can't go too in depth here because of what I mentioned at the start of the video. But I mean, just because he's gone doesn't mean all of his accounts are gone. So in some ways, you may still be or may not be seeing that same account being fought. Can we say anything there or not really with the whole TOS stuff?
I think everyone's aware of it. I do think that it is something to be conscious of with YouTube and their policies.
Yeah.
The bottom line, I think, is this game has a lot of permanence for accounts. Nobody puts in 6 or 7 figures into creating an account
Yeah.
and then just goes over to a delete button and hits it. That's just not human behavior. Um, I also think it's worth noting that a lot of the larger spenders in this game don't just spend on their account. They actually help raise up communities of accounts.
Mm.
right? And those accounts will actually tend to remain even if the larger player who helped build them up moves on, right? It's a very community centric game. You'll notice almost on every cluster in the game, there's usually one or two like Kraken players, and most of them don't just stick to their account. Like once they've spent so much, there's major diminishing returns. You've
Hmm.
seen it yourself playing Diablo Immortal. Every dollar you spend is on an exponential curve.
Yeah.
And that exponential curve just gets more and more brutal. So a lot of these players, in order to have more impact in their cluster, their server, bout, whatever it is, will help grow many accounts. And I think that's something to be aware of as players is that, okay, one person leaving doesn't mean that the entire place is decimated. And I think that's something players can kind of either look forward to, feel bad about. It's just part of the game and the environment. You'll see this in a lot of mobile games actually, where one player will control a fleet, I guess you could call it, of accounts.
Yeah, and I mean, and it's not abnormal for people, any people, to play a game for a few years and then just kind of get bored of the grind and want to move on to something else. So there's also that just like normal person part of this, whether it a mobile game or whether it be a PC or a console game as well. Now, I heard you mention 6 or 7 figures. That literally made me raise my eyebrows a little bit. Before we do that, what what is his reason? I mean, when you think about Diablo Immortal as a whole, a lot of people, they play the game in the beginning for the first few months and it's all about progression. It's about getting gear, it's about unlocking skills, unlocking essences and your typical Diablo experience. But then once you're in the game for 6 months plus, it's like, okay, now am I just going to always continuously worry about getting my account better, which is obviously what we do as Diablo Immortal players, but what more? What keeps you coming back for more? What keeps you spending on gems and things like that? And it comes down to PvP. Now, I bring that up because I wanted to talk about why Baratheon, or what may have been part of the reason why he decided to stop playing.
Yeah, I think there's a couple different pieces in here. I'll address it kind of in two parts. First, kind of the motivation side, and then kind of more specifically on Baratheon. So if we talk about the motivation side of spending on a mobile game, I think you really need to take a step back when you're looking at people who take the game more seriously.
Hmm.
It's not a game in air quotes, it's a hobby, right? And if you take any hobby seriously, it can be expensive. Let's take, for example, let's say you mod cars. All right, you can imagine that buying high-end vehicles and high-end custom parts for these vehicles and the shop work and the maintenance and etc. to run into the hundreds of thousands of dollars over years. People do it because they love it, right? Not because the system is a problem. But if you look at underlying motivations, it's usually about the people and the community that they're in and a part of. But in order to look at it and really understand it, you have to pick what a particular player surrounds themselves about. What does this activity, this hobby, mean to them? Now, if we shift this over to Baratheon, Baratheon's a very avid PvPer. And we should talk about the PvP landscape in this game. The developers have just iterated Battlegrounds and added a bunch of, we'll call them PvE or monster mobs. The general PvP community is not a fan. Not because the stacking up of the percent damage isn't cool or whatever, but now you have monsters in the way triggering your gems before you can combo a
Yeah.
particular player or try to
Hmm.
make a play in the match. And the general sentiment is these are getting in the way of a PvP game mode. You've taken PvP and minimized PvP. This has had a large negative impact in the overall PvP community's viewpoint. Now, is it better for all the players at large? I think only Blizzard can really look at the metrics and tell us. But in terms of the higher end PvP communities, the PvP centric forums, very negative on that PvE monster side being in a BG. Now, this has led a lot of those PvPers to say Bout is the single real competition in this game, especially for these Kraken level accounts you're talking about. Everyone's focus is on Bout. They're watching the other people who are making their Bout teams and fine tuning, and they're tuning theirs. How high are their secondaries? How high do mine need to be? What's their average resonance? Where are we at? This is where you're seeing a lot of the Kraken layer focus. I've talked to Baratheon a fair bit, and Bout was his jam. He loved whale wars, and there isn't anything you can get closer to a whale war than Bout of Realms. As you get higher up in that matchmaking, it gets crazy competitive. And I think that's a huge thrill for people. And I think Bout of Realms is not consistent. Our next Bout of Realms at the time of recording this is, I think, a little under 3 months away. If you're a high-end PvPer and you're told the next PvP event that you care about is a quarter of a year away, you don't necessarily want to do all of that maintenance, that grind, and that
Yeah.
wait to
Yeah.
get back into the fight. And for Baratheon, that was a huge deal. As a PvP nut, the battlegrounds weren't cutting it anymore with the PvE interference and the quality of the balancing. And if you take a look at Bout, it's phenomenal, but it's far apart. And I think that this was a lot of the side of it that broke the hobby for him.
Hmm.
As a PvP oriented player, this was a hit. I don't think this last patch was a major success, at least in terms of what the PvP community and forum talks about regularly. And I think that's worth addressing. It definitely impacts a ton of people.
Oh, great points, and I like the way that you broke it down. And you're right. The PVE VP experience at Battlegrounds has kind of shifted towards a little bit. It's more, it ruins the experience for people that just want a PvP experience, which is, in all honesty, probably a minority of players because it's much more of a casual player friendly experience, introducing a little bit of the PvE to Battlegrounds as well. Also, you said Bout of Realms, the next one's 3 months away. True. And that's a problem, especially when there's so many games, even mobile games, that have PvP, competitive PvP on a daily basis. That's what games are completely surrounded by. So I wouldn't be surprised if he tries to find himself one of those types of experiences. When I spoke to him last, when I had him on the channel the last time around, he mentioned that he was into, I believe, I forget what it was, one of the kingdom builders, like King of War, one of those types of games. Another very pay-to-win type game back in the past. So I'm wondering if he's going to go back to that genre or not. I guess we'll all find out with time. But thanks for the breakdown and honestly the little hint of suggestion right there to Blizzard that the PvP community isn't liking this new change. And to be honest with you, the heavy PvP community, they are the biggest spenders inside of the game. Not that the light spenders and the PvE grinders don't spend inside of the game, but they don't spend like Baratheon. No one spends, or not many spend like Baratheon. And speaking of the Baratheon spend, I know that you know a bunch of the accounts that he was in charge of managing, owning. I guess I should say owning. Can you give us some type of a breakdown of what the action, if I were to go and take that account from day one and build it up to that through doing everything through the Blizzard shop the official way, what are those accounts valued at? Like his main account that you mentioned, 14K res plus. Can you give us some context on what the value of those accounts would look like?
I can. I've looked at many accounts, so I can kind of give some rough metrics here.
Yeah.
When you're talking the absolute tippy top, right? And I'm going to try and normalize it so it includes the secondary gems, the pets, the everything it takes to build the top end,
Mm-hmm.
right? I do think the absolute strongest accounts in this game are in the 800 to over $1 million in terms of actual spend into the accounts. Now, I'm not going to judge anyone in terms of how much discretionary money they have and what they choose to use on it.
Mm-hmm.
I know those figures can absolutely trigger some people. But if you sit down and really break down the math, and not just the math of if you were to build it clean, no, the math of you've been playing for years and the game shifts and the maintenance cost. I'm going to say that if you were a day one player like Baratheon and you've been playing that long, yes, you are getting into that seven figures of spend
Wow.
onto a super high end account like that. I think you could max resonance for less. I think you could max secondaries for less. I think you could probably get comparable pets for less if you did a clean build in a snapshot window. But not if you think about the gem treadmill, so to
Mm,
speak, as you could call it, where they're constantly releasing new things and you need to change everything. When you look at that over time, it's a big deal. I also think we should step it down. I don't think looking at max of max is even comparable for a lot of Krakens.
yeah.
Most of the max res accounts aren't even close to as large in terms of the amount of gem power and secondaries on that, right? Um, when you look at kind of that top tier gem cycling, right, in order to be competitive in PvP, this is what drives a lot of high end spending, needing the new gems back to back to back, right? It was
Yep.
tons of them. Like your normal starting gems in the game, I think only Blood Soaked Jade and Bottled Hope are the two gems that people still recommend in the PvP community that you even use anymore,
Yeah.
right? Which is
Yeah.
a big shift. When we let's step this back a tier though. So like let's walk off max res and let's move to other monsters because we're still in Kraken Terry if you talk about 12Ks and
Okay.
11Ks. These are huge accounts. If you have an 11K with good secondaries from day one, you're probably talking over 150 in like $1,000 in terms of spend. If you're in that 12 territory, then you're probably talking in the 300-400 at least to kind of be up there from that
Oh,
day one. This is factoring in all the maintenance cost and the gem cycle and everything. So I'm talking like what people might realistically be spending to be at this level. For context, I built 11K from the ground up myself,
oh my
and I
God.
have played along with many, many friends at similar levels. These are not, put a sticky note on a wall, I guess. These are pretty rough, accurate figures. And these are really spend levels that are driven by I want to be in the top of the PvP crew,
Right.
or I want to be a pillar for my community on the server. So we're always getting immortal and moving people's capes forward, or whatever those spend motivations are. But these top end accounts are huge, huge spends. Um, that's a very real factor that
Yeah.
people need to consider.
People are going to watch this video. I already know other content creators that are going to watch this video and have things to say about that amount of money being spent. When you think about $800,000 to $1 million spent on a game, a mobile game, any game, it's really crazy. But you did, as you mentioned, people spend tons of monies on their hobbies. And when you were starting to talk about that, I was thinking cars in my head as well, because the amount of money people put on cars. Now, there's a difference between buying yourself, like a Maserati and buying yourself a really nice Diablo Immortal account, in my opinion. But when you are in a position to be able to spend that kind of money on your hobbies, who are we to say what you spend your money on? At least they're spending it on something that's helping to support something that we get to enjoy as well. Because I know Baratheon wasn't taking me for a ride in his Maserati, but it did help support the game that I get to play every single day. Not saying he has a Maserati, just for context there.
I mean,
Man, yeah,
we all want Maserati just to say we have
yeah,
one.
exactly. Just to say I have a Maserati. I actually rather a nice big off-road vehicle myself. But this was a good chat, man. I appreciate you hopping on. You really have yourself in tune with what's going on inside of the community of Diablo Immortal. I'd love to have you back on again in the future, just to kind of maybe touch base on how's the community feeling. And it's actually kind of nice for Blizzard to be able to hear those types of things so that they can have in their ear from another source, how's the community feeling about the current status of the game. So open invitation for you to return. What server are you playing on right now? If anyone says, "Oh, that guy sounds cool. I want to go play, alongside of him."
I'm on the Eternal Conflict server right now. That's currently a shared cluster, so you could also be on Meshif or Ure. Any of those three servers would be where you can find us. My crew's HX Inquisition. We cycle to Immortal every cycle and have a grand old time. Right now, we're running up to Immortals with Mythic and Valhalla. both awesome groups of people, and we're always recruiting. Feel free to come say hi. We
Yeah,
always like having more company and friends.
yeah, but bring those whale accounts though. None of those free to play accounts over to you.
Oh, we don't really stress that too much.
I'm
Hell, we
joking.
have themed reigns. I think our next one's going to be like superheroes and villains, and we have PvP competitions and all kinds of other stuff coming up. Like
I
I
love
said,
that.
for a lot of people in the game, there's a strong, meaningful kind of community aspect, and that's really what at least my side focuses on and why I play. I built my own gaming community playing Diablo Immortal and just try to keep my friends around having a good time, and that's what we do.
Yeah, man, I love that. You're a super positive person inside of the community. So thanks for all the context. Thanks for the details and a little bit more context for you guys. I don't know if you saw my live stream that just happened a night or two ago, but we did some war games and we had some nice competitions, had some prizes for people. This is something that we're starting to do over here in the Treasure Goblin server, which is actually cross-server now in North America, which was nice. We were able to have a whole bunch of 8v8s happen last night or 2 nights ago, depending on when you're watching this. But I did, in that stream, give everyone a little sneak peek of a website that I've been creating over the last couple of months. It's right here on the screen for you guys. It's Game Strategy HQ, which is basically, it's a website that focuses right now on Diablo Immortal, but in the future, it will also include other games as well. And the reason I bring this up right now is because Thundersoap was someone that helped me along with this project and did a lot of the development on this project. So I just wanted to give him a little shout for all the help here. If you want to come check out the website, it literally just launched this weekend. We got our developer news. We have videos that come through from myself, from Indez, and from Oroth, all coming through on here when content is posted. We have a builds system unlike any other. This is probably the most shareable build system anywhere on the internet for Diablo Immortal. One of the things that I hated most as a player was when I'd have to reach out to some of my clanmates being like, what's the next best build? And I'd be getting screenshots and recordings, and it was just a mess. But now we have these awesome shareable cards that are easily dropped into Discord servers, very nice and clean so that you could easily share your builds. You could create your own builds and stuff here to share them however you want. That's an awesome feature. And of course, we have maps. And only the things that you care about on the maps are on there. Some gem calculators as well, and a war plan section so you can plan out your war so that you have only the most winning full Shadow and Immortal wars inside of the game. So, Thunder, I just wanted to bring that up while you were here because, one, I appreciate you helping me put all of this together and doing a lot of the legwork on all the tech inside of this. And I think you did a great job, man. The site's looking awesome.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun to build. As someone deep in the DI community, we've been hearing a lot of different pain points and
Mm-hmm.
building tools to solve those. The community has really loved. I'm glad that we actually have a proper site that's live and maintained with everything coming in. We're already starting to see a lot of our PvPers pushing up their, PvE and PvP builds and tips and stuff for the challenge rifts on builds. And I've been really loving it. It's a lot of fun. And that War Planner, I just want to give a little wink on. It's awesome. We actually took the strategies we use to plan and run our wars, and we actually built them into prefab strategies. So if you're just telling people to load it and wing it, and you want to get a little more competitive, well, you can actually use most of our tactics with a button click. Your clan leader just exports the roster,
Mm-hmm.
uploads it, and then you can pick a strategy. We have all kinds of good stuff in there. It's worth taking a look at.
Such a great tool, one that my clan, I'm going to be pushing for them to utilize as well and change what they're using. But what I challenge all of you to do is check out the site and put in some of your own builds. Choose a build, create yourself an account, log in with Discord or Google, whatever you want. It's super easy. And share some of your favorite builds that you're currently using. Then you can share them with your friends, and maybe I'll even be able to feature some of those builds in upcoming videos. Because, well, that's a good community thing to do. Thunder, great work on the site. I appreciate you, man, and thanks for coming through and talking about this whole Baratheon leaving Diablo Immortal situation and giving all the context that you had. Really appreciate it, man.
Absolutely, anytime. It's always a pleasure to work with you. And if you need me back, just let me know. I'm always happy to talk about all things DI.
I'll be hitting you up, man. Thank you guys for watching until the end. I appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in the next one.